Hello and welcome to It's All About Missions, our country spotlight. And this week we're going to be looking at the country of Turkey. And this is very familiar to me because this is where my wife and I are planning to go and to learn the language and to be church planners. I just want to give you a little more information about Turkey and so you can understand what the need is there and what part maybe you could have in helping further the gospel in the country of Turkey, or maybe giving your life to go and take the gospel there. Turkey is a country of over 80 million people, about 81 million right now, but that doesn't include almost 4 million refugees that live in and throughout all of Turkey. And of the 80 million, 99.8% are Muslim. Now the thing about this is that most of them are Muslim in name, not a lot of action. So most of them will tell you they're Muslim, but they may have never read the Quran, may have hardly ever been to a mosque. They may not even say their prayers, but they say they're Muslim because that is what mom and dad, because there's this are, and what their grandma and grandpa are, because there's a saying that is, to be Turkish is to be Muslim. Turkey is rich with wonderful history, and really it goes back all the way. You can find Turkey actually a lot in the Bible. It goes all the way back to Abraham, the city of Haran, however you want to say that. Turkey, that is in Turkey. And so Abraham, when he left, when God said, hey, go to Canaan, he left, and then he went and he stayed in Haran for a little while. And then after he left there, he went down and he went to the promised land where God had called him to go, in the land of Canaan. But that's just the first mention of Turkey there. The mountains of Ararat, Mount Ararat is in Turkey. And so, no, the Ark is possibly there. There's a lot of people wondering where that is. And I get asked that question a lot if we're going to go see it. And, we may try if we get a chance to. But also, the most important thing about happened in Turkey is in Acts. If you begin reading in Acts, God sent a man named Paul. And Paul went and began to preach all throughout the regions of what would be considered modern-day Turkey. He was in places like Galatia and Ephesus and all of these different cities preaching the gospel. And as you look and see what God was doing, you could really see God working in the regions of Turkey in the first century. And you could call Turkey a beacon of light to a dark world. But today that light has gone out. Today there's less than 5,000 Christians in the entire country. Very few people are there ministering. Very few churches are being started. Very few people are preaching the gospel. And it's a place that is in desperate need of people to go and to share the gospel. Some history of Turkey. Turkey itself was originally the Ottoman Empire, had been around for a very long time, but after World War I, when the Ottoman Empire was disbanded, they were trying to figure out what to do and what to go. And in 1923, the Republic of Turkey was founded by Ataturk. Ataturk is the father of modern-day Turkey. He is beloved by almost every person from Turkey, and he's a great influence. He was a great man and did a lot of things to help give a lot of freedom in the country of Turkey and allow a lot of rights. And that is one great thing about the country of Turkey. You say, well, it's a Muslim country. It means it's got to be very difficult to preach the gospel. It's a republic, and there are freedoms there. So it's not illegal to be a Christian. It's not illegal to have a church. You can have a legally recognized church. There are open doors in the country of Turkey that in some Muslim countries you can't find. So we need to be sending people to this country. For over 80 million people, we need to send people to go and to share the gospel with these people, to go and to preach to people who have never heard. Turkey pops up in the news a lot of it as the current president, Erdogan. He has a lot of things going on, and he's a big world power player, and he's traveling all over the world. He's trying to set reforms and do big things with the country of Turkey. But one of the biggest things in Turkey is houses the largest amount of refugees in the world. Most of those are from Syria, Iran, and Iraq, Afghanistan area. And they go up there and they're living all throughout Turkey, which means there's another opportunity in Turkey that if you go there, you can reach these refugees. And when their countries open up, when things get better in their countries, they go back. Guess what? We've got ready-made people to go back into these countries and start churches. So I want to challenge you this week. Please pray for the country of Turkey. Pray for my wife and myself as we are raising our support to get there. But I'd ask you to pray that God could raise up more laborers. My wife and I are not enough. We need more people that are willing to give their life and say, I will go take the gospel to the people of Turkey. I will go to this place where really Christianity had a great start in the first century where Paul preached. And you see, Paul, he just went in and he preached the gospel and God began to bless. And I believe if we just go in and we preach the gospel, God can once again do a great work in and throughout the regions of Turkey. Would you please pray for the country of Turkey? Pray that God would raise up laborers. Pray that national pastors could be trained. And pray that Turkey could be reached with the gospel. Thanks again for joining us for this week of the Country Spotlight, which is of Turkey. Remember to join us each and every week. Like and subscribe to stay more informed about what is going on here, and that way you can know when our new videos are out. And once again, remember, our job and God's desire is that the world will reach with the gospel. So let's see the world reach with the gospel in this generation.